Hi, everyone. I'm Joaquín Beltrán. I'm the creator of Speak Up America, and I'm here with my friend Jeremey Rossman to speak about coronavirus in the summer.
Hello, I'm Jeremey Rossman. I'm a virologist, the president of Research Aid Networks, and a senior lecturer in virology at the University of Kent. And it's my pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. It's awesome to have you, Jeremey. So, Jeremey and I have been talking about coronavirus in the summer, and it's summer. People are acting like it's summer. They're going out and doing things that are fun to do. But coronavirus is still a risk. And we're going to lean on Jeremey's expertise to talk about the risk during the summer and how to stay safe. So, Jeremey, what are some things people should watch out for as they go out and participate in things that they usually participate in during the summer?
Yeah, it's nice. We've been cooped up inside for so long. We've all been having quarantine, and now all of a sudden we get nice weather, and everybody wants to go outside, and everybody wants to go back to normal life. Myself included.
Mhm.
But we have to remember that the virus is still here.
Right.
And so, with that, we still need to be cautious. And just because it's the summer and just because it's nice weather doesn't mean that we can just sort of go back to normal life. All the things that we've been talked about for, quite a while now, physical distancing, face masks, hand washing, all of that is still just as important. And, as we're going out and trying to do more stuff, it becomes even more important to protect ourselves and to protect our communities.
So some of the things that are out there are about the effect that the sun UV rays have on the virus. Can you speak more on that?
Yeah, as we're coming into summer, people are starting to say, well, is the environment and, the UV or the humidity or the temperature, is this gonna, help make us safe? And, we know for a lot of viruses that UV, for example, is really good at killing viruses. I mean, in the lab, you can take a UV light and you can kill viruses really effectively, but it's not quite the same outside. Yes, UV light can still kill viruses, and the more UV light you have, the more it kills viruses, but it's not something that we can rely on. The intensity of UV light that we're getting outside is not enough to kill the virus really quickly. So, if we're sitting outside and we're chatting and we're close together, the virus might be exposed to some UV light because it's a beautiful, brilliant, sunny day, but it's not going to kill the virus quick enough. And so the virus might pass between us and
Right.
start a new infection before the UV light kills it. Now, virus that might have come from somebody coughing and lying on a table that's outside, yeah, that's going to be broken down and killed by the UV light over time outside, and that's going to degrade the virus faster than it would inside. But it's not enough to say, okay, we're safe, we don't have to worry about the virus anymore.
Right. So, if I miss my friends and I'm saying, hey, Jeremey, let's go to the beach and we're hanging out, one of us is sick, um, then you're saying that the virus would not be killed soon enough to prevent transmission if we're hanging out close together.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not quite enough. It's probably good at reducing transmission a little bit, and humidity is another great example. In the summer, the high humidity actually adds a little bit of weight to these little respiratory droplets that come out of, my mouth when I'm talking that have the virus. And so high humidity, those droplets just fall to the ground faster. And so it reduces the transmission, but it's not enough so that we're hanging out on the beach and there's no risk of transmission. It helps us, and at this point in time any help that we get is great, but it's not enough that we don't have to take precautions ourselves.
Right. And then when it comes to temperature, what role does temperature play in whether a virus stays activated or not?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that we don't really know for COVID-19 yet. We know that at a certain high temperature, the virus breaks down. But this is higher temperatures than you're getting on even a really brilliant sunny day. You know, 120-degree temperature in the middle of the desert, it's still not going to be enough to break down the virus. And what people have seen is when they've looked to say, okay, areas of the country that maybe have higher temperature, they do tend to have slightly reduced transmission. But when you dig into that data a little bit more, they've discovered that it's more about humidity or UV light that is really affecting the virus. That temperature doesn't seem to be affecting the transmission. But again, this is a really new virus, and we're learning so much about the virus every week. And so this answer may change over time, but right now it seems like humidity and UV have more an effect than temperature, but it could change.
Right, and you see that happening across places, even here in the United States, in Arizona, and also border towns too, in Mexico, where it gets very hot. And they have some of the highest number of cases that are happening in the summer. Which brings up another question, which is during the summer, people go indoors too, right? Sometimes it's too hot to be outside, right? So what role does going indoors and air conditioning play in the transmission of the virus?
Our behavior changes so much from the winter to the summer to a really hot day in the summer. And our behavior and where we are and how we're interacting makes such a difference in transmission. So, if we're outside and, we're hanging out on the beach and we're talking, any virus that's coming out of my mouth is diluted into this huge volume of air because we're outside. Maybe there's even a breeze. That's all helping because it's diluting the virus. Now, if we go move inside, either because it's winter or it's a really hot day and we just can't handle being at the beach anymore, that's a much smaller volume of air. So any virus that's coming out of my mouth is now in a much smaller space. So it's really concentrated. And so the risks of you breathing that in and getting infected are much greater. Now, if we were inside at, a really big space, a auditorium or something, and it was just the two of us and we had a couple feet of distance, but it was a really big volume of air, well, then it might be a little bit different because then, the virus is still being diluted. But it's just a matter of how big of a volume of air is it. And if you're in a small room with not a lot of airflow, the risks are far greater.
I think that's a really great point. I think, you covering the effect that the sun, the UV rays, that warmth, that being in close contact, that being indoors has with transmission of the virus are really helpful for so many of us during the summer. Is there any additional information you'd like to share?
Yeah, thanks. This is, it's not really complicated. It just is a matter of paying attention to what you're doing. So as long as we all remember that the virus is still there and we still have to be careful, you can follow this guide called Smart Behavior for the summer. It's very simple. All you have to do is remember SMART. And that starts with space. Keep 6 feet of distance from other people when you're outside. It's very simple. Or if we're indoors and talking, keep a little bit of space between people. Works very, very well. Masks or face coverings are incredibly effective because if we're sitting close together and we're talking to each other and we're not wearing masks, the virus is coming right out of me and going right to you. But if we're both wearing masks or face coverings, that's really getting in the way of the virus going between us. So it's really effective. Air, well, we already mentioned this idea of being outside. Being outside or having this bigger space is really effective because it helps dilute the virus. So you just want to pay attention to where you are. And if you can meet outside, that's better. Bigger volume spaces, just stay away from these close, confined indoor spaces. That's really important. Restrict yourself. Try to be careful in how many people you're interacting with. There's no magic number, but each additional person that you're interacting with increases the risk. So if it's just the two of us chatting, well, that's a fairly low risk. But if we bring 10 of our friends, well, that just significantly increased the risk. So just be careful and trying to restrict how many people you're interacting with. And finally, time. The shorter period of time you're spending interacting with these people, the better it is, the lower the risk is. And each one of these makes a huge difference, and they all work together. So if you're in the supermarket and you're going through the checkout and you're close to somebody and you can't do that first one, you can't do the space, you can't keep 6 feet of distance, but you're only there for a couple seconds. You just pass by somewhere. Well, it all helps. And so by having that short time, it can compensate for having that reduction in space. So if we just pay attention to the fact that the virus is there and we have to be smart, well, the virus is there and there's a risk. And if I go out of my house, this is a real risk that I'm taking, but I don't worry. I'm not afraid, because I know if I do these smart activities, then I will be safe and I'll help my community lower transmission. And so it's nothing we have to be afraid of, but it is something that we have to pay attention to and take responsibility and act for.
I love this SMART framework. It said space, mask, air, restrictions, and time, right? And I think that's a great party note for so many of us who are trying to enjoy the summer, but also we know that coronavirus is still here. We know that cases are increasing a lot across the country, across the world, and so we still have to be, as you said, smart with this framework. So Jeremey, I really appreciate your time and you sharing this information with us. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. It was great talking with you, and thank you everybody for listening. And just remember, be safe and be smart this summer.
Thank you, Jeremey. And thank you so much, everyone. Like Jeremey said, keep being smart, stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Thank you all.